The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
All right, out there, the signal is on. How's the mic? How's the mic this morning, guys? Thumbs up. All right, very good. Welcome, everybody. February 28, 2024. Normally, this would be the final day of the month, but we've got a bonus day tomorrow, so we're excited about that. Buckle in, guys and gals out there. This morning has been a whirlwind of activity in committees, so much so that the House State Affairs Committee didn't even look like they were going to adjourn in time to make it to the House floor. We don't have to take the audio live, but let's dip into the House floor here. This is Representative Petsky presenting I believe this is an appropriations bill, House Bill 648. This is an appropriations bill. It's basically a budget bill for the Office of Information and Technology Services. So JFAC is doing their thing and sending out these budgets to get voted on the floor. So we expect these things to get approved unless there's some healthy debate. So so that's what's going on in the House. What was very interesting, though, we thought we would be opening the show today with a House floor debate on House Bill 538. The free speech bill. This is a free speech bill where the government would have we would stop the government from compelling people to use preferred pronouns of other people, basically to lie. And so this bill, for the second day, at least the second day, it might have been. I mean, today's Wednesday. It might have been skipped on Monday as well. But it was about to come up. And then the majority leader rose and asked unanimous consent to move House Bill 538 to the bottom of the reading calendar. And that happened, I believe it happened yesterday as well. And that's a little frustrating. So I'm not quite sure why they are waiting to vote on this bill. There's public testimony has already happened. There's nothing that they can do in terms of amending the bill because it's on the third reading calendar. The only step next to do is either to vote for it or ask that it be sent back to committee. And so this is a little concerning that they're delaying this. And as an outside perspective looking in, it feels as though that perhaps they're using this bill as some sort of leverage, as happens in the halls of Boise down there. They tend to horse trade votes for this. You vote for my bill, I'll vote for your bill. Meanwhile, we're just out here, for these 3 months waiting to see if they're going to protect our rights. And this is a very important bill. This would stop the government from setting any rules at any level that, and if you think about it, like for instance at schools, for teachers, forcing teachers to lie and to use some imaginary pronouns, it makes me think about there was an episode of Jeopardy that came out that showed these strange words like zir, zem, zypher, or whatever, and that was the answer, and then you had to answer the question in the form of a question, and the person said, "What are pronouns?" And they were like, "Yep, you're right," and they moved right along. And it was like these words were nonsensical words; they were made up words that have made its way into Jeopardy. So if somebody in government is forcing you as an employee of the government to use proper pronouns, this bill would stop that. Or improper pronouns. This bill would stop that. So we're concerned about this. So we're going to check in to see what's really going on with this bill. We'll check with the bill sponsors and supporters behind it and find out why this keeps getting skipped. And if there is a need to raise a little hell, we will do so, as is our mission here at The Signal and at Citizens Alliance of Idaho. So that being said, I don't want to rush through this stuff. We've got a lot of clips. We may not get to all of them. But like I said, this morning was very, very busy in committee. The first thing I want to get to was actually what happened yesterday. And guys, I sent you this clip. I don't know if we added it in here. This is the Representative Tony Wisniewski yesterday. Do I got a thumbs up from you guys? Yeah, here he is. So I'll just set this up. Tony Wisniewski was the sponsor of a bill, the State Compact Bill. And this basically says, and he explained it, he had a very long presentation here, but he explained that this bill would authorize Idaho to form a compact with other states, particularly Texas, to protect our country against invasion. And so this is a part of his speech here that I wanted to get into, where he talks about, are we under an invasion? Is what is happening to our country now considered an invasion? So let's play this clip here. Representative Wisniewski yesterday on the House floor debating House. It says 564, but it actually is 464. And I believe they updated in the clip, but don't get confused. It's House Bill 464. So let's play this clip.
I don't think there's any or many of us that would believe that we have not been invaded. I'd like to read several issues here. The definition of invasion involves two parts. First of all, it's entry. And if you have entry only into a foreign space or a space that you don't belong in, that is mere trespassing. The other requirement is a term called enmity, or intent to do harm. And we certainly have that with the millions of illegal aliens that have invaded our country. The conservative estimates are that there are between 11 and 17 million illegal aliens here in this country. We are being engaged with asymmetric warfare. They're not fighting with rifles or bullets, but we are seeing a lot of damage done to our social structures, hospitals, schools, housing, education, U.S. jobs that are being lost, welfare programs that are being overrun. The bill also includes reference to the Canadian border, and some people have thought, well, we only share a couple dozen miles of Canadian border with the state of Idaho, but that's not the issue. The issue is only about 78% of the illegal aliens are coming across the southern border. The rest are coming in through the coasts, which is difficult to do, or from along the northern border that we share, the United States shares with Canada. So the Canadian border, if you exclude the Alaska-Canadian border, which is not subject to this or not of great deal of interest in this issue, that national border is about 4,000 miles long. The southern border is only 2,000, so we have a stretch of 2,000 extra miles that is available to illegals to come across from the Canadian side. And we have reports that illegal aliens and drugs are coming across that border as well. So we're interested in the entire northern border, not just the Idaho-Canadian border. I'd like to just reference a couple of headlines from major news sources or newspapers. Here's one that's talking about the growing number of Chinese immigrants crossing the southern border. This was written in 2023, and it said that more than 24,000 Chinese citizens have been apprehended crossing the southern border, and that was in 2023. How many gotaways were among that group? They usually fly into Ecuador, which is the source of the trail of these migrations, because Ecuador does not require a visa to enter. And so there's an organized trail from Ecuador up into Colombia, across to Panama.
Okay,
Costa
so
Rica.
we thank Representative Tony Wisniewski for presenting this bill. He, as I mentioned, he spoke at length on presenting this bill, and it passed. It passed 48-20. And so that was a good thing. You can see that this issue is of extreme importance. It has obviously national attention, and everything that the states are involved in that aren't along the southern border, they have great concern, because we're seeing the effects of this, and you'll see today, because there's kind of a theme going on here, that what is happening at the border certainly does affect what is happening here in Idaho, and as Representative Wisniewski told us there, we share a northern border, which is just as easily accessed, if need be, by an invading force. One point of note that I highly recommend is there was an episode of Tucker Carlson recently that he released, where he interviewed, I believe it was Brett Weinstein, who went down to the Darien Gap in Panama, which separates South America from Central America, and it's a very thick jungle. And this is there's accumulated a ton of people here, and that's the pathway. They come in through Ecuador, like he said, and they make their way through Central America. And so there's a very, very scary things going on, and there's a great migration that's happening in the world as a whole. And there are tons and tons of migrants that are moving about and coming to this country for very personal reasons. But there's also bad actors that are taking advantage of this migration, and this hopefully sets the stage to help defend our country. So we will keep an eye on that bill. So in the vein of that, let's move forward here, because Representative Dale Hawkins, we had him on a couple of weeks ago talking about House Joint Memorial 8. And this is a memorial that would be sent to the our congressional delegation, Senators Reich, Senators Crapo, Representative Fulcher, and Representative Simpson in Washington, D.C., instructing them, basically, and telling them that the legislature of Idaho is requesting, demanding, whatever language you want to say, that they do something about the border. And this is and saying with one voice, this is what Idaho is looking for. A Senate memorial was passed recently in the Senate that tried to deal with this, but critics of that bill look at that and think that was more of a protection for a guest worker program than it was a forceful statement for border security. This one is the opposite of that, in terms of saying we need to lay the blame here at President Biden and the lack of actions that Congress is taking, and so Representative Hawkins was before the committee this morning. I believe this was in the House State Affairs Committee. He presented this memorial, and then he also got a question from our favorite Democrat on that committee, Representative Gannon. So we have that clip ready to go here. So let's bring that up and listen to Representative Hawkins speak
Chairman
upon
and good
this
committee.
issue.
Before you, we have House Joint Memorial 8, and let me get a little organized here for you.
Well, you take your time.
You bet. There is no doubt that if you turn on the TV today and you watch news all over our country, the main topic of news is the invasion at our southern border. I flipped through the channels the other day looking to see if I could find news that wasn't somehow reporting on this issue. All the way from the young nurse that was just murdered across the country and other events like that. But just in general, the invasion that we're going, and I've had people ask me, do we think this is the time for this? What's the need for this? House Joint Memorial 8 was drafted to send the strongest possible message to Congress, and specifically Idaho's congressional delegation. The overreaching message, the immigration invasion at the southern border is not an accident. It is the result of the deliberate actions by President Joe Biden and his administration. Joe Biden broke the immigration system and did not do it by accident. And I have a list of things here I'd like to read to you.
You're welcome to read them. Let's refer to him as the president, whether we...
Yes, sir.
The respect for the
Chairman.
office, I think, is important.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Are we not supposed to be impugning motives here?
I haven't heard anything yet, and I've tried to make sure that he's professional in referring to him as the President of the United States, whether he agrees with them or not. So if it goes down that, feel free to object, and we'll take that up.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh boy, the guard, the proletariat guard, has to come out and protect Joe Biden. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Okay, that aside, Achilles' concerns aside, very serious goings on. We all know how serious this is. We all know exactly what the country and the immigration process was just 3 years ago. Even before COVID and all that stuff was going on, the Remain in Mexico policy and all of that stuff that was going on just a mere 4 years ago. So this memorial is extremely important, and I believe during, and it was a lengthy hearing this morning, and we could be playing clips for days. We might clip the entire thing and just share it again like we've done before with others. But we do have a couple of good clips here because we had some good questions from Representative Heather Scott, who was questioning some of the lobbyists who are there on behalf of corporations. They were there on behalf of the dairy industry. They were there on behalf on this one that we're going to see was on behalf of the Food Processors Association, something like that. And so she wanted to find out exactly who the food processors represented, and then some other stats about their companies and that sort of thing. So we'll cut to those clips fairly quickly here. But I just want to set up for you that the reason why there's so much pushback from these lobbyists and these associations, these business associations, is because of the labor. It's the labor issue. There is a lot of folks coming over the border who are being hired illegally right now in Idaho. They are working here illegally, and that's an issue. And so there's a lot of force coming out against this memorial, and against any other laws that are trying to be passed to deal with this issue. So let's go to Representative Heather Scott. She was talking with the let's see which one we have. Let's do the companies one first, guys. Let's do that.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kelly. So we learned from the gentleman from the dairy farmers that they had about 70% of their workforce is illegal, undocumented, whatever you want to call them, but illegal. Can you tell me what percent of food producers workforce is illegal or undocumented?
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Scott, no, I definitely cannot. The wide berth that we represent, once again, back to your question, there's corporations involved, there's small seed associations involved, Idaho Dairymen's involved, and so different industries, different farmland, whether you're a dryland farmer, whether you're a lettuce farmer, necessitates how many workers you need
to testify.
And that's where that would come from. That number would have to come from, and I'd have to get in the weeds on that. I don't have any number for that.
One last follow-up, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kelly, can you tell me, is a couple of your larger corporations, I think like Monsanto might be one of yours, but can you just give me a couple of the larger corporations that food producers represent?
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Scott, yeah. Formerly Monsanto would be Bayer, and we have J.R. Simplot is another one that comes to the top of my mind.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Okay, so interesting there. The Dairy Association alone had 70,000. Was that what they said? 70,000 illegal employees in the dairy industry. That number blew my mind. Not 70,000, 70%. Okay, thanks for the correction, guys. 70% of the workers in the dairy industry are of that illegal status, which is mind blowing. I mean, whatever number you want to use, it's mind blowing that's the number. And then of course you heard some of the companies that the food processors are representing. So Representative Scott had some other questions about the incentives for behind all of this, and so let's listen to that clip.
My question is, does your industry do anything to incentivize the illegals, workers, to become legal citizens? What does your industry do? Because it sounds like you pay them fairly, you give them housing, you give them travel. Do you incentivize them to go through the pathway to citizenship?
Okay.
Mr. Jensen.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Scott, thank you. Very good question. So I just want to differentiate. First of all, when it comes to H-2A employers and everything like that, those individuals are guest workers. We shouldn't conflate them with immigrants. They're not looking to come and become, citizens or their legal status here is on a worker visa program that's for the duration up to 10 months. So we're not trying to do anything on that front to get them there. On the other front, the challenge is as it has been discussed, is that as these employees present the documentation to complete an I-9 form, our employers are kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. They cannot question the legitimacy of that document without the risk of litigation for questioning their documents, and it puts them in legal peril. We have examples of employers that have questioned those kind of documents in the past and have been sued for profiling, and so it's one of those tenuous, difficult situations where they have a job that needs to be done, crops in the field that need to come out, seeds that need to be planted, cows that need to be milked, and they have somebody who's here in the country presenting the documents and willing to do the job, and that's kind of the situation where our folks are in. It's certainly difficult when the burden of federal government immigration law falls on the shoulders of our farmers and ranchers in this state. We don't think it's fair at all because the federal government is not doing their job. That burden falls on the individual farmers and ranchers who are just trying to make a living and carry out their needs here. And so we're as frustrated as anybody, but at the same time, we don't want to be in the legal jeopardy of questioning or criticized for stereotyping or profiling an individual as well.
Representative Young.
Oh wow, incredible! This is the battle that they're up against when they talk about workers, and he didn't want to say it, but people that come into this country to do the jobs that Americans won't do or that Idahoans won't do, and this goes to the notion of why she asked the incentives, the things that are outlaid there, the things that even our government will put forth, like workforce housing, and all these incentives that help industry hire labor who will work for cheap, so that they can have and you can have these cheap goods. But is that moral? Is that ethical? I mean, that's basically what the South was doing during pre-antebellum times, right? Making money off of slave labor. That's not where I want to be headed. That's not the world I want to live in. And so there are plenty of folks out there. There are plenty of youth out there, low skilled or unskilled workers, that is not a slight against anybody. When you don't have a particular set of skills, then you're an unskilled person. And there's a lot of these jobs where you learn on the job and stuff and so forth. So I look at this whole notion of needing to have all of these folks coming in, because they're going to go do jobs that Americans won't do, and it was like I said, this was a very long hearing. There was a lot of great arguments being made, but we've got an unemployment rate. We also have people that are looking for work and looking for jobs. We have high inflation, so all these factors come in here. But it seems that these folks that are coming in are trying to defend the fact that we need to be giving these jobs to people that are coming over the border illegally, or they're applying for a work visa, and so I think if you can reduce the problems that are happening at the border and reduce that to a level that's sustainable to pre-Biden era, that then we will be able to tackle the work visa problem and having people still come over here on work visas. But what's going on now is unsustainable, and we've seen a lot of arguments in that realm. Okay, so what does this mean? When we keep having all this stuff, all these folks come in, is that it puts a strain on our services. And so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dovetail into a bill that Representative Jordan Redmond had this morning in committee, that was trying to tackle one of the strains on the services that is in our state. So we will take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Stick with us.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is a conservative state. That's why leftist billionaires and woke progressives are pushing the ranked choice runoff scheme. Their goal, a radical anti-gun equity agenda. Repeal stand your ground and constitutional carry and pass red flag gun confiscation. This is about taking our guns, destroying our freedom, radicalizing Idaho, and changing our state forever. Stop them before it's too late. Open primaries and ranked choice voting will destroy Idaho. Don't let leftist billionaires turn our state into California.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty, for honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, welcome back. The House just voted on House Bill 523. You can see the tally right there. This bill was brought forth by Representative Jordan Redmond. And this bill would, if I'm reading the slug line here correctly, it amends existing law to include health care sharing ministries as an eligible medical expense. And so for those of you who discovered health care sharing ministries during the whole Obamacare debacle, this was a way to pool your money with a private organization to cover medical expenses should they come up. And it wasn't necessarily necessarily health insurance, but it was like a mutual aid society type of thing. So for years now, you weren't able to apply those medical expenses towards any sort of deductions or any sort of medical savings account laws and statutes that were there. They were strictly on your own, and there are many people that have jumped to these medical sharing healthcare sharing ministries over the years. And so Senator Redmond, who I think in his private life is in the insurance business, is there trying to make some folks whole in that. So we think that's a good bill, and we're glad to see it pass. So it is on its way. Okay, before we went to the break, we were setting up some more discussion on this whole immigration issue and the problems that unrestrained immigration and the things that are going on in this country, the strain that it puts on the services. So Jordan Redmond, speaking of, was in the House Health and Welfare Committee with House Bill 615. And this essentially said that while everybody, we want to make sure that if there is an emergency, whether you're an illegal alien or not, if there is an extreme emergency health-wise, that you will get cared for. We all have that compassion. And so this bill essentially said if you are here illegally and you don't have an emergency or a non-essential healthcare requirement, that we're not going to cover those expenses. And there are other nonprofits and there are other agencies out there that might be able to help you in that situation. But when it comes to this overwhelming force of folks coming into the country and putting a strain on these services, this bill is just one way to sort of tackle and put a restraint on those services. So Representative Redmond presented that bill this morning in the House Health and Welfare Committee. So let's listen to his brief comments on presenting this bill.
Representative Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Jordan Redmond, District 3 in Kootenai County for the record. House Bill 615 addresses what I believe is the biggest issue we're currently facing in the country today, and that's what's happening at our southern border. Somewhere around 8 million people have crossed the southern border illegally, and our federal government under the current administration has been facilitating this. Many in this body have asked, what can we do as a state, particularly like Idaho, to stop what's happening at the southern border or to try to help? The answer is Idaho can become less attractive to illegal immigration. This bill would remove access to some public benefits by illegal immigration. In this way, we can make Idaho less attractive to the people that are here illegally. This bill does not prohibit anyone who's here illegally from accessing emergency medical care, and it does not prevent the state actions necessary for protecting life and public safety. This bill does not go after any businesses, but it does prohibit the government from providing non-emergency services to folks that are here illegally. That's why this is good policy, because it does not target the employer, it targets those who are here illegally. In my opinion, we should not be using taxpayer dollars to service folks that should not be here in the first place. We need to use those resources for the citizens that are here legally and who need some help from the state. The message will get out that Idaho is not a place that is easily accepted of services if you're here illegally. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to accept questions. I know I have a couple co-sponsors here. I don't know if they want to say any words.
Representative Tanner.
open there for your committee meetings, but we might need a few minutes in here at 1:30 just to run the bills up and down the order so we can continue to move the process. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn until 11 a.m. Thursday, February 29th, 2024.
Late from 18.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
For the motion adjourned, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. The House adjourned until the hour of.
Come on. All right. Unbelievable. I don't know what's going on with my mic being muted. Who is it? Me who mutes it and then you unmute it? I don't understand. Sometimes you guys get to unmute it, sometimes we don't. We'll figure it out. So I've just been gabbing on and on and on for what? How long was that? Just ba 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 ba. I don't even know what I was talking about there. So the House is adjourned, as you saw, and let's move on. I need to tell you about that bill though, because it ended up Jordan Redmond's bill ended up failing, and it didn't make it out of committee, and the folks that voted against it were Chanel Dixon, Josh Wheeler, Megan Blanksma, and Marco Erickson, and the Democrats. And so it was close. I think that made it a 7-5 vote at the end there. And it's bizarre to me that the folks who are so concerned, they have such concern about folks that are not citizens or in this country legally. You know, if you're participating in the process and you're giving, you're advancing your community by contributing, by paying your taxes, by paying into the system, and then seeing all of those resources being used by an overwhelming force of people coming in here illegally, it boggles the mind, you know. But it's the same mentality that says we need to send all of our federal dollars overseas to other places while we've got problems here. So it's a big issue. It happens from the state level to the federal level, all the way down to the local level. And so it's very upsetting to see that this bill didn't make its way through because some people wanted to team up with the Democrats and defeat this. So the bill dies in committee. Maybe it'll come back in another form later. Maybe we have to wait till next session. So there we go. Okay. I need to let's just take a short break. Let's just play a quick bumper just so I can reset myself here and figure out what's going on. And then we'll head back into the broadcast. It's live, folks. It's live. We'll be right back.
Spending this money surplus, which is not a surplus, it's an overcharging of the taxpayers.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
All right. It worked. I am unmuted. It worked. All right, folks, apologies as we, this is only episode 38. It's not like we're in like 500 episode land. So I appreciate you sticking with me here. It's not on your end, most likely. It's on our end. Okay. Like we said at the top of the show here, there was a lot of activity today, and I want to give you a quick rundown of a lot of the bills that are happening. So just to get you up to speed, we just talked about House Bill 615, which was defeated in committee. That was, you just saw Representative Redmond discuss that. House Bill 620, Redmond was also in the House State Affairs Committee this morning with House Bill 620, which would limit the ability of local to enforce regulations on the right to bear arms. And the right to bear arms includes knives. And so he had his bill passed out of committee this morning that would prevent local governments from infringing on your right to bear arms when it came to knives. House Bill 572 was also in the House State Affairs Committee, and this was Representative Hawkins, and this would put in place a mechanism that says we are not going to go down the road of a universal basic income, a UBI. You might have heard of these things before that are passing in other countries, but they're starting to permeate and pass, or at least try to get passed in other states in the country, where if you are of a particular poverty level line, or anyone really, that the government will give you a universal basic income to make sure that you have at least a basic income coming in at all times without working. So this would say, no, we are not going to do that and turn our country into a socialist communist nightmare by doing that. We work hard for what we earn. So that passed in committee. So that was good news. The House Joint Memorial 8, we talked about that. That did pass. It was very interesting at the end of that discussion, the House Joint Memorial 8, which dealt with the border security, was there was a motion to pass it and send it to the floor. Then there was a second motion that said they wanted to hold it in committee. And then there was a third motion that said we want to hold it in committee until March 1st. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was a completely different bill. I'm telling you, there were so many things that are going on. That was, which bill was that, guys? That was with that was with Joe's election bill, or maybe that was with. There's so much going on. Sorry. Regardless, those are all the nuances that don't really matter. The bill passed committee. Fantastic. Okay. The other bill that passed committee was the one I think I was just speaking about that had several different motions going on, and that was House Bill 470. House Bill 470 was brought on by Representative Joe Alfieri, and Joe Alfieri, this is an election crime bill, and what this would do would put within the Attorney General's office an investigative unit that would be deployed anytime somebody suspected of crimes with our elections. And so there was this bill was very interesting, and maybe we'll play some clips later, but later in the week. But this bill was interesting because the Secretary of State is who administers our elections, and this bill didn't go through the Secretary of State. In fact, he spoke out against the bill. Not to say that he didn't like a lot of the aspects within the bill, but that his office wasn't consulted on this. And Representative Joe Alfieri made a great point where he says, look, if the bank, if your bank is robbed, you don't send out the bank manager to figure out who robbed it and how it was done and how to catch them. You send in the police, and that's what the Attorney General is. So you could find some nuance in there perhaps, but this bill nonetheless passed committee in order to help protect the investigate election crimes that may happen at any level within our state, and so that falls into they want that to fall into the Attorney General's office. So that is House Bill 470. So we'll definitely keep eyes on that, as we are very committed to election integrity. Okay, moving on. House Bill 498 has finally made its way to the Senate. And this is a bill that we have been tracking. This is the Online Child Protection Act against pornography. And we watched its journey in the House. And Representative Elaine Price was the one that was presenting it in the House. And this bill passed overwhelmingly. I think it was a unanimous. I think was there one person? No, I think it was pretty unanimous in that committee. I mean, in the House. And so this tells distributors of pornography that if you are going to distribute pornography online through the internet in Idaho, that you need to have an age verification system on there. And it's up to you. It's up to you to figure out how to verify that the people who are watching your content and consuming your content are not minors, are of age, 18 and older. And if you're not, then you're going to be fined. you're going to be held liable. And so this bill passed the House overwhelmingly, and so we were happy that when it made its way to the Senate State Affairs Committee, which we'll talk about in a minute, that it got a hearing today. And so Senator Ben Taves was there with this bill, and we wanted to watch. He had a long presentation on it, but we wanted to share at least some of the opening bits here with Senator Ben Taves. Let's listen.
Of the committee, for the record, my name is Ben Taves. I'm Senator for District 4. So today before you is House Bill 498. First of all, I'd like to go over the problem that our society is dealing with. And I want to point out that this is building on the good work of Senator Cook, who pointed out previously to this committee that the porn industry is largely connected to the trafficking industry, to child exploitation, and it doesn't reflect it on your bill right now, but Senator Cook has agreed to be a front page sponsor on this, and him and I have admiration for his work to solve this problem, and him and I have the same goal, which is to protect the children of Idaho. So I'm going to walk you through the handout that I gave you, a little bit more data on how serious of a problem it is. Children are exposed to pornography. 73% of teens 13 to 17 have watched pornography online. In the same study, it revealed that 58% of teens surveyed had stumbled upon it accidentally, and the average age of first exposure was 12. Since that's an average, I think it's clear that there's 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds that are being exposed to this, and obviously it's having a harmful impact on our children and on the future of our communities. So what you have with this particular piece of legislation is an effective solution. It uses content-based third-party age verification. The map that you have before you outlines that this has been passed, similar legislation has been passed in 8 states so far. There's 21 more bills that are active in other states. And since I made this map, it's possible that some of those have even passed as well. So it's kind of a recognized solution to this issue. It's a cross-platform solution, which is really important. Children these days access the internet on so many different devices, everything from their Switch or Xbox gaming systems to laptop computers to tablets and phones. So this wouldn't matter. This would address the issue no matter what device they use to access the internet. After Louisiana's law passed, one article said that traffic dropped between 80 and 95% to some of the sites. Some websites actually chose to leave some of the states that passed this legislation, and it's had bipartisan support in most states. The numbers on the map show that, like in Texas, it was 164 in favor, 1 against. Arkansas, 127 to 0. So it's largely bipartisan, and I think that's probably because it's a common sense solution to put the responsibility where it belongs on the content providers and publishers that are profiting off of this material. This legislation has also been shown to be legally defensible. The laws are currently in effect, even though the first one was passed in 2022, and then 7 more in 2023.
Okay, so let's
next to just go through the
Senator Taves was obviously presenting this bill, but there was some public testimony here that was very interesting, and I want to play a clip here because I think the even though we're seeing overwhelming support for this, and it's great to see, but there's a larger issue here, and it spills out over into other areas. I mean, everybody can look at and see that the the visual graphic pornography that everybody thinks about and how detrimental it is to children. But there's an element in our society that is exposing and starting to introduce these ideas and these images and these notions at a much earlier age. And that's what the big concern is when it comes to the library bill or sexual dancing in public and that you see at pride events and such. There's an element here that is very sinister. And we spoke with Blaine Canzati yesterday about the role of our society in protecting our children. And so there's ramifications for this. And there was a public commenter who spoke on this bill, I believe last time when it was in the House, and returned here to speak to it in the Senate committee. And so let's listen to that clip. I believe his name is Steve.
Introduce yourself. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. My name is Steve Fulmer. I am here representing myself as someone who's had significant harm in his life, stemming from watching pornography as a child. For me, pornography, I started watching at 8 years old, turned into an addiction, and that addiction created other dangerous and life-threatening issues for me. I'm happy to say that in 2 years in sobriety or in recovery, which will be a continued effort for the rest of my life, that I've salvaged the satisfying things in my life, my marriage, being a father, my job, basically my whole life. I'm no longer a slave to pornography and its damaging effects for the first time since I was 8 years old. I'm here today because I believe one of my missions and purposes in life after going through what I have is to prevent this from happening to our other children, of course mine included. I'm lucky to make it through what I have in a time when pornography was extremely limited compared to today. I can't say exactly where I'd be as an 8-year-old watching pornography for the first time, knowing that I can simply go online from the hundreds of available devices and thousands of free porn sites and watch as much as I want whenever I want. It would be a catastrophic, as when I was an 8-year-old in 1987, watching pornography a couple times a month to 35 years later, watching it 3 or 4 times a day. And in today's day and age, as an 8-year-old, you can maybe watch it once and you can start watching it 3 or 4 times, maybe in a year, maybe in months, maybe weeks, maybe days. Okay. This would again be catastrophic, and the reason why is because of availability and lack of age verification. I'm currently creating a nonprofit company which one of our major goals is to create solutions to the issues of children being harmed by harmful sexual material online. One of those solutions is minor verification. That's why I'm in support of House Bill 498. Chairman, could I request more time?
I'll be a little gentle.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. The main point of my testimony is that parents need to have recourse against companies that distribute and provide harmful sexual content. We need laws that will allow us to litigate against companies that don't require thorough and efficient age verification, to hold them accountable and the industry accountable. In doing so, we will then have companies that age verify their customers, which will add one more layer of protection. I would like to give you guys an analogy. So imagine that we don't have the laws we do for alcohol, for age verification in alcohol, and a business comes to Idaho and has the same exact business philosophy and model as a company like Pornhub. They would allow anybody to walk through their doors, and all that would be required is that they check a box saying that they are of age and they can come in their doors. When they come in, our children, once inside, would immediately be provided alcohol of various types and potencies, asking that child, what do they want? What are you interested in? You interested in beer? Are you interested in alcohol? What do you want? And here it is. Here's the selection. And not only do you get access to it, but you get as much as you want because it's free. So imagine a child, again, in this store, drinking themselves into a stupor, causing harmful physical and mental ramifications to them, maybe to the point where there is maybe no recovery. The parents, in this case, would be shocked, of course, mortified, seeing their kid come home in this kind of condition. And they would probably ask themselves, well, what can I do? I sat at home and I filtered all my devices at home. I did everything I could. I educated my kid. They walked down the street, and this is what happened. Somebody gave them alcohol for free, as much as they want, whenever they want. They can't do anything about it. There is no recourse. There's no laws. You have no ability to do anything. And in this case, these are the institutions, these are the companies that will sit back and say, well, we are meeting federal guidelines. There's no motivation. If we go in and we then require filtering ourselves and we have the higher moral ground and standards to do the filtering, we'll just lose business. And this is a company that's not in the business to lose money. This is a for-profit company. Again, there is no way we can hold them accountable. And that is why I'm in support of House Bill 498. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Wow, compelling testimony there, and we thank him for his courage in raising this issue. It's a serious issue. Okay, we have a couple more clips, but we're getting near the end of the show here, and I just I don't want to rush through this stuff. So the good news is that this bill. I gotta get this right. This bill passed out of committee, and so that's great. So this bill passed out of committee, and we'll head to the Senate floor for a vote. So that's good news. Making its way. Congratulations to Representative Price and Senator Taves for their work on this as it moves through. Okay, folks. We have a little call to action here. Where's the bill? Where's the bill? Where's the bill? House Bill 493 is currently sitting in the Senate State Affairs Committee, where bills go to die in the Senate. And some bills make it out of there, and some bills don't. And right now, House Bill 493, it passed the House 46-24, and that was back on... if my note is correct here, on February 16, so 12 days ago. So we're coming up on 2 weeks. But at the end of this week, it'll be 2 weeks since this bill passed the House and was sent over to the Senate. I'm not saying that is an extraordinarily egregious amount of time to wait for a bill to come up for a hearing. However, as we make our way into March, there are a lot of bills on the agenda that need to get passed, and this one, once again, is sitting in that Senate State Affairs Committee. This is the phone number for the room, 208-332-1326. You can send an email to that address right there, sstaf@senate.idaho.gov, and this bill prohibits the public mask mandates. Did I not say that at the top? Well, we had it. We have it there. Prohibition on mask mandates. This bill is sitting in the Senate State Affairs Committee and needs to be heard. We need to have some more public testimony again in the Senate, and they need to act on this bill. So please do your part out there and give them a call and tell them that you want a public hearing in the Senate. The Senate committee on this. Okay, very good. We have, today I have to apologize once again for some of the it was a crazy morning. We had all these committee things going, all the guys recording here, recording there, and one of the things that is kind of frustrating about the way the live feed is delivered is that. It makes nothing. Everything is done within the legislators' own ecosystem. Nothing is streamed on YouTube or X or Rumble or any of the places that we're on. And then when they're done, they get archived, and you have to download the video to watch it. It's not available streamed anywhere. So we're actually working on trying to help get that process cleaned up so that there's more transparency and we can all pay attention to this stuff. So more on that much later, but. So I apologize. Also, this morning, we had a huge dump of snow last night up here. I don't know if it affected the rest of the state, but we got a huge dump of snow. And I went out this morning to get in the car, and I was shoveling snow and getting my truck snow off the truck and stuff. And I didn't realize that I had my AirPods in, and one of them fell out, and and they're white. And I thought, I'm never going to find this thing. I was just like a mess. I was like, and then I got to do the show and I got to have the earphones in so I can hear. It was a mess. Luckily, it just fell into my collar. And so I found it later, thankfully. Thank the Lord for that one. Okay, folks. that's it. We got some more. We had some more clips on the agenda, but we'll get to it. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you, and all the support that you give to the show. But more importantly, more than if you're going to make a phone call, if you're going to write an email, don't do it to us. Send those messages to the Senate State Affairs. Find out who your representatives are. Find out who your senators are, and support their efforts. Or tell them that you don't support their efforts if your district isn't upholding the values that you feel are necessary. So please do that. That's how we win. That's how we preserve our families. That's how we preserve our values. I'm always reminded that we need in times like this, you got to stay calm. And that's it. So. As always, idahosignal.com. You can donate there. Thank you guys for bringing that up. And we will catch you next time on Idaho Signal. We will see you tomorrow.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.